Good morning. Welcome to PUP News. I'm your host, Greg. Now, what I should be saying as we go through these lectures is it's not about me defending Islam or anything like that. This is how I was taught in school. My personal beliefs on religion are that religions themselves, at the core, were meant to be peaceful. However, once you throw people into the mix, they realize they can manipulate religion for their own power. So far, we've talked about going to Mecca. We've talked about giving. Tithes. Forget what I called it last time. We've talked about the fundamental tenets. Now, we're going to go a little bit more deeper. And we'll talk about the fundamentals of Islam. The main fundamentals of Islam are that Muhammad is the prophet, the Quran is perfect, the 5 pillars of Islam, Islamic law, and ethics. Islamic law has various stages called the Kufa and Medina. There's the Hadiths, which are the reportings of Muhammad. There are 4 schools of Islamic law. Legal scholars are often used, and fatwas aid in making judicial opinions. The duties and responsibilities told to the tribe back then were that for quarrels you appeal to God, and that you subtract tithes from your loot when you conquer peoples. Ali, who was a big figure after Muhammad, marched out of Medina to Kufa. He occupied Basra, but failed to win over something or other people. Kufa becomes the capital. Mennonites died. They concluded the Taisi. May have been prepping a new campaign at the time. Then there's Zoroaster. Now, the Zoroaster school of law are that they are teachers, they are restless, they have traveled, they believe in medicine, they're about age 30, and they have visions. Islam also believes that Judaism comprises of the Old Testament. The first 5 books are the Pentateuch. The earliest account is from Genesis. It was prior to the Quran. It was transmitted to writing. It was transmitted orally and also on the Dead Sea Scrolls. There were 2 kingdoms of Judah. And this is important as we talk about more wars. There were 2 tribes. They were mixed kings. So they took the Babylon captive in 586. Nebuchadnezzar, he redeemed. There was Cyrus the Mede, and they rebuilt. Then there was the beginning of the pilgrimage ritual, which was for Muslims. Abraham orders the pilgrimage to God's house. Now remember, God's house, as we discussed last time, for Muslims is in Mecca. And Moses is also crucial because he stated that punishment is reserved for those who disbelieve and mistreat God's prophets. That's an example of how, when we have images of Muhammad, the Quran bans depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, especially, which is bad enough, but then you go on to like South Park and Ranch's newspaper to satirize and make fun of and disrespect the Prophet on top of that. Now, when I am finished with this, at some point, I do have a paper that I wrote in college that I'd like to read. And it was about how Islam is actually a religion of peace. Though in current days, modern standards, especially since 9/11, those who have been radicalized and do not preach, I would say, pure Islam, but preach as a radical does, who has been indoctrinated to a certain way of thinking, that is where everything falls apart. And that is why religion in general, not just Muslims, Christians who believe that gays are sinners, a couple other people, in the what started the Vietnam War were Buddhist monks immolating, doing self-immolation, burning themselves alive. And, you know, what we're going to talk about as we go on is we're going to see, here are the fundamentals of Islam, not to be confused with fundamentalist Islam. Here are the fundamentals of Islam. And you will see that the violence that is caused today is actually, I would say, for lack of a better word, going off the script. It's not what was originally planned. And, our next lecture, I think it's probably still on Islam. We'll talk about that then. Bye.